The Grand Council chamber floated in orbit above a dying star. Light from the red sun passed through the crystal walls and painted the room in blood-colored shadows. Hundreds of alien leaders sat in silence, their eyes fixed on the glowing image at the center of the chamber. Earth, blue, calm, quiet, too quiet. For 200 years, the galaxy had expanded, conquered, and fought endless wars. Empires had risen and fallen. Entire species had disappeared. Yet one planet remained untouched. Earth. High Commander Verex of the Carthian Empire stood slowly from his seat. His armor reflected the red light as he looked around the chamber. "Why?" he asked, his voice deep and steady. "Does no one attack Earth?" The question spread through the chamber like a shockwave. Some leaders shifted uncomfortably. Others avoided eye contact. A few whispered to their advisors. Earth was not the richest world. It was not the largest empire. It did not control major trade routes. But no fleet had entered human space with hostile intent for over a century. That fact disturbed Verex. A thin insect-like ambassador finally spoke. Several empires considered it long ago. And? Verex asked. They changed their minds. Why? The ambassador hesitated. There are stories. Verex's eyes narrowed. Stories are not strategy. An old intelligence officer activated a holographic archive in the center of the room. The lights dimmed as ancient battle footage appeared. "This is classified data," the officer said quietly. "Recorded 97 years ago." The recording showed a massive fleet approaching the outer border of human space. Thousands of warships, advanced weapons, overwhelming power. The fleet commander in the footage laughed as he gave the order to advance. At first, nothing happened. No human fleet appeared. No warning was sent. No defense grid activated. Just silence. Then space began to distort. Stars bent unnaturally. Sensors failed. Ships drifted off course without explanation. Gravity readings spiked beyond safe limits. Within minutes, the front line of ships collapsed inward, crushed by invisible pressure. Others lost power completely and went dark. No weapons were detected. No attackers were seen. The fleet markers on the tactical screen blinked out one by one. The recording ended. The chamber lights slowly returned. "No survivors," the officer said. "No debris field. Only empty space." A low murmur filled the hall. Another file was opened. This time, a smaller but more advanced empire had sent stealth probes instead of warships. The probes crossed into human territory and transmitted data for exactly 12 seconds. Then the signal cut. Moments later, a message appeared in the Empire's command center. It contained 5 simple words. "You are being watched. Leave." They did not leave. Their scout fleet later returned without firing a single shot. The crews were alive, but deeply shaken. Many refused to speak about what they saw. One captain wrote only one sentence in his final report before resigning. The darkness moved. The file closed. Silence filled the Grand Council again. Commander Verex stepped forward, staring at the image of Earth. "They are hiding something," he said calmly. A tall silver-skinned delegate spoke carefully. "Or perhaps they are simply strong." Verex shook his head. "Strength shows itself. This is different." He turned to the chamber. "I will not rely on fear and rumors. The Carthian Empire will send a scout fleet. We will cross the border and observe." Gasps echoed across the hall. "No empire has dared in decades," someone whispered. Verex's voice became cold. "Then we will be the first in decades." The image of Earth rotated slowly in the air between them. Peaceful oceans. Soft clouds. No visible defense fleets. It looked harmless, but the silence around it felt heavy. Far beyond the council chamber, deep inside human-controlled space, a quiet signal activated. A hidden network that had not moved in years began to wake. Across distant star systems, silent stations adjusted their alignment. Something had noticed the question, and it was preparing an answer. Commander Verex watched the blue planet carefully. He had asked why no one attacked Earth. Soon, he would find out. The Carthian scout fleet moved in perfect formation toward human space. 50 warships cut through the dark like sharp blades. Their engines burned bright blue. Their shields shimmered with quiet power. Every ship carried advanced scanners, long-range weapons, and elite crews trained for deep space missions. Commander Verex stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Iron Fawn. His eyes were locked on the forward screen where a thin, glowing line marked the edge of human territory. There, The navigation officer said softly. The human border. It did not look like much. No defense stations. No weapon platforms. No patrol ships. Just empty space. Verex felt a small wave of satisfaction. So this is what the galaxy fears, he said quietly. He raised his hand. Cross it. The fleet passed the invisible border. For several long seconds, nothing happened. No alarms. No warnings. No messages. Some officers allowed themselves to relax. Scanners show normal star activity, one technician reported. No abnormal energy readings. Verex did not smile. Scan deeper. The ships continued forward. Human space looked like any other region of the galaxy. Distant stars. Cold planets. Silent asteroid fields. Then the first glitch appeared. Commander, a sensor operator said, confused. Our distance reading to the nearest star just changed. Changed how? It increased by 2,000 kilometers, then returned to normal. That is impossible, another officer muttered. Before Verex could respond, a second report came in. Time synchronization error on Deck 7. What kind of error? The internal clocks are off by 3 seconds. The bridge grew quiet. Correct it, Verex ordered. We already tried, sir. It corrected itself. A faint tension filled the air. Suddenly, one of the ships at the back of the formation disappeared from the tactical display. It did not explode. It did not signal distress. It simply vanished. Report. Verex shouted. No debris detected. No energy spike. No warp signature. The missing ship reappeared on sensors 30 seconds later. But it was no longer in formation. It was behind the fleet. Drifting. Power readings were unstable. Verex ordered an immediate connection. The captain of the lost ship appeared on screen. His usually calm face was pale. What happened? Verex demanded. The captain swallowed hard. We saw something, Commander. What? It was between the stars. Not a ship. Not debris. It moved, without engines. Verex's eyes narrowed. Explain clearly. The captain hesitated. Space folded around us. For a moment, we were somewhere else. It was dark, but not empty. Before he could continue, every alarm on the Iron Fong activated at once. Red warning lights flashed across the bridge. All ships report gravitational distortion. Unknown energy field forming around the fleet. Verex looked at the main screen. The stars ahead were bending. Not violently like in the old battle footage, but slowly, controlled, like invisible walls were forming around them. We are being surrounded, the tactical officer whispered. By what? Verex demanded. No visible vessels detected. Then the fleet engines began to flicker. Not shutting down completely, just weakening, as if something was pressing against them. A transmission signal appeared on every screen at once. It did not come from a single direction. It came from everywhere. Simple white text formed in the center of the display. You have entered controlled space. The bridge fell silent. Another line appeared. You were warned in the past. Verex felt a cold weight settle in his chest. Source of transmission? He asked. Unknown. It is integrated into all frequencies. We cannot block it. Outside the ships, the darkness seemed heavier. The sensor officer whispered, Commander, we are not just being watched. Verex kept his voice steady. What do you mean? There are structures out there. Massive ones. But they do not reflect light normally. They were invisible until now. Shapes began to appear faintly on the edge of sensor range. Enormous. Stationary. Surrounding the fleet in a perfect circle. How many? Verex asked. The officer's voice trembled. Too many to count. The white text changed again. You asked why no one attacks Earth. The message paused. Then the final line appeared. This is the first reason. Suddenly, the fleet engines shut down completely. Weapons powered off. Shields collapsed. Every system froze in perfect silence. The Carthian fleet hung helpless in the dark. No explosions. No violence. Just total control. Commander Verex stared at the bending stars outside his window. For the first time, he began to understand. The galaxy had not avoided Earth because it was weak. The galaxy had avoided Earth because crossing the border meant surrendering control. And they had just crossed it. The Carthian fleet remained frozen in space. 50 powerful warships, built for conquest, now drifted like powerless metal shells. No engines. No shields. No weapons. Even internal communications worked only on emergency power. Commander Verex stood still on the bridge of the Iron Fong. He did not shout. He did not panic. he observed. Status, he said calmly. Total system override, the chief engineer replied. Something has locked us out of our own controls. It is not hacking in a normal way. It is deeper. It is as if the laws of physics are being adjusted around us. Varric stared at the distorted stars outside. Are we being attacked? No. Commander, the tactical officer answered quietly. If this is an attack, it is the most controlled one I have ever seen. The white message still floated on every screen. You asked why no one attacks Earth. Then the stars shifted again. But this time, the distortion did not feel random. It felt organized. Across the darkness, faint lines of light began to appear. Thin, almost invisible threads connecting distant points in space. At first they looked like sensor errors. Then more appeared. They stretched from star to star, from planet to planet, from hidden structure to hidden structure. The sensor officer leaned forward. Commander, those are not natural phenomena. What are they? Varric asked. A network. The word hung in the air. The display zoomed outward automatically, as if guided by an unseen hand. The fleet was no longer at the center of the image. It was just a small point trapped inside a massive pattern. The threads of light formed a web across multiple star systems. Hundreds of nodes. Thousands. Each one connected. Each one active. This cannot be possible, one officer whispered. The energy required. It is stable, the engineer interrupted. Perfectly balanced. Not a single fluctuation. Suddenly, a new image appeared on the main screen. A human face. Calm. Focused. Unafraid. The figure wore no armor. No visible rank symbols. Just a simple uniform. Commander Varric of the Carthian Empire. The human said in clear, steady language. You are safe. For now. Varric stepped closer to the screen. You have disabled my fleet. Yes. Without firing a weapon. Yes. Varric narrowed his eyes. Explain. The human tilted his head slightly. For 2 centuries, the galaxy has fought wars over resources and pride. Humanity chose a different path. The image shifted. The glowing web between the stars became clearer. We built infrastructure, the human continued. Not only around Earth. Around every human colony. Around trade routes. Around deep space. The lines pulse softly. This network observes. It calculates. It responds. Varric watched carefully. It controls gravity. It adjusts local space-time conditions, the human corrected calmly. With precision. The Carthian commander felt a quiet realization forming. You do not need fleets at your borders, he said slowly. The human nodded. Your ships crossed a monitored threshold. The system classified your formation and energy levels as potential invasion force. It activated containment protocols. Varric looked around his silent bridge. His fleet was not destroyed. Not damaged. Just held. You could destroy us, he said. Yes. Why have you not? The human's expression did not change. Because your fleet has not fired. Because you are observing. Because we prefer understanding over war. Another pulse moved through the web. In the past, others ignored warnings. The response was permanent. Varric remembered the old recordings from the council chamber. Fleets crushed without visible attackers. Ships erased without debris. This was how. Not anger. Not revenge. Preparation. He looked again at the endless web connecting star systems. How long have you been building this? He asked quietly. The human answered without hesitation. 187 years. The number struck him like a physical blow. While the galaxy fought wars and celebrated victories, humanity had been weaving a shield across light years. The human spoke again. Earth is not feared because we threaten others. Earth is left alone because we are ready. The fleet's systems flickered slightly, as if the network was demonstrating control. You are currently experiencing only one layer of our defense grid. Varric felt a chill. One layer. The human gave a small nod. You asked why no one attacks Earth. The web glowed brighter for a moment. This is the second reason. And far beyond the trapped fleet, deeper inside human space, something even larger shifted quietly in the dark. The web of light faded slightly, but the pressure around the Carthian fleet remained. Commander Varric stood face to face with the human on the main screen. The alien officers on the bridge were silent. No one dared interrupt. You said this is only the second reason, Varric said carefully. What is the first? The human did not answer immediately. Instead, the stars around the fleet shifted again. A new display formed in space itself. It was not just on their screens. It was outside, visible through the main window. A small Carthian scout drone drifted away from the fleet. It had launched automatically when systems first failed. It now floated several thousand kilometers ahead. Observe, the human said. Without warning, space folded gently around the drone. There was no explosion, no flash. The drone compressed into a bright sphere the size of a small asteroid. Its metal frame crushed inward silently. Then the sphere collapsed into nothing. Total erasure. Gasps filled the bridge. That drone carried no weapons, Varric said, trying to control his voice. It crossed a restricted vector, the human replied. The response was minimal. Minimal, one officer whispered. The human continued calmly. Your fleet is currently inside a gravitational control field. We are adjusting only the level required to prevent aggression. As he spoke, the fleet's power systems flickered again. For half a second, the main engines came back online. Then they shut down once more. A demonstration. We can restore your systems fully, the human said. Or we can reduce your ships to particles. The choice depends on intent. Varric felt anger rise inside him, but he pushed it down. Anger would solve nothing here. You monitor the entire border this way? He asked. Yes. How far does this network extend? The human's eyes remained steady. Far enough. The stars shifted once more. The display zoomed outward beyond the fleet. More nodes of the web appeared. Then more. The structure extended across multiple sectors. You built this in secret, Varric said. We built it quietly. The human corrected. There is a difference. Silence filled the bridge again. Then the human added something unexpected. This is not our greatest defense. The air felt heavier. Varric stared at the screen. You claim this is not your strongest system? No. The human touched a control panel out of view. Deep space behind the Carthian fleet began to ripple. Not like the controlled distortions from before. This felt deeper, older. A massive shadow formed between distant stars. At first it looked like a black cloud. Then the sensors screamed. Energy reading beyond measurable scale. It's not a ship. It's not natural. The shadow moved slowly, like something stretching after a long sleep. Varric's throat went dry. What is that? The human's voice lowered slightly. A deterrent. The shadow pulsed once. Space bent around it in perfect silence. It is fully autonomous, the human continued. It does not require orders from Earth. It responds directly to invasion-level threats. The Carthian tactical officer whispered, Commander, if that thing moves toward us. Varric already understood. You built a guardian, he said. We built certainty, the human replied. The shadow slowly faded back into the darkness, but its presence remained in the sensor logs like a scar. The human returned his full attention to Varric. You asked why no one attacks Earth. Varric did not speak. Empires in the past believed they could win quickly. They believed silence meant weakness. They believed distance meant vulnerability. The human leaned slightly forward. They were wrong. The fleet systems suddenly powered back online. Engines hummed softly. Shields returned. Weapons reactivated, but remained locked in safe mode. You are free to leave, the human said. Your fleet has been recorded as non-hostile. Varric looked around his bridge. Every officer understood the message. They had not survived because they were strong. They had survived because humanity allowed it. You are not conquerors, Varric said slowly. No, the human replied. We are prepared. The communication feed ended. Outside, the web of light began to fade back into invisibility. The stars returned to normal positions. Only the memory remained. Commander Varric gave a quiet order. Turn the fleet around. As the Carthian ships slowly exited human space, he looked one last time at the darkness behind them. They had asked why no one attacks Earth. Now they understood something terrifying. Earth did not need to threaten the galaxy. It had already made war impossible, and that was far more powerful than fear. The Carthian fleet traveled back toward Council space in complete silence. No music played in the halls of the warships. No officers spoke about victory. No one celebrated survival. The stars outside looked the same as always, but every crew member felt different. They had crossed into human territory expecting to discover weakness. They had discovered control. Commander Varric stood alone in the observation chamber of the Iron Fawn. The memory of the web between the stars would not leave his mind. The silent network. The crushed drone. The shadow that moved without sound. He understood now. Humanity did not show power. It demonstrated it only when necessary. When the fleet finally returned to the Grand Council chamber, word had already spread. The leaders of many empires filled the seats. Some looked curious. Others looked nervous. Varix stepped into the center of the chamber. No armor this time. No dramatic entrance. Just silence. Well, the silver-skinned delegate asked carefully. What did you find? Varix activated a holographic display. The web of light appeared above the council floor. Gasps echoed across the room. This, Varix said calmly, is why no one attacks Earth. He replayed sensor recordings of the gravitational containment field, the erased drone, the distortion of space itself. He did not exaggerate. He did not dramatize. He simply showed the truth. They disabled 50 warships without firing a visible weapon, he continued. They control the border at a level beyond conventional technology. Murmurs grew louder. An ambassador stood abruptly. So they are preparing for conquest. Varix turned slowly. No. The room grew quiet again. They are preparing for survival. The shadow image from deep space appeared next in the display. Even the recording of it caused unease in the chamber. That entity alone could have erased our fleet, Varix said. It did not. Why? Someone whispered. Because we did not fire. The leaders looked at one another. A reptilian warlord asked sharply. Can they expand this network? Can they trap us inside our own systems? Varix answered without hesitation. They already could have, if that was their intent. Silence. The truth was uncomfortable. The human strategy was not built for attack. It was built to make attack meaningless. For centuries, the galaxy had believed power meant fleets, weapons, loud displays of dominance. Humanity had chosen patience. While empires fought over pride, humans had woven infrastructure between stars. Quietly, without announcement, an elderly scholar in the chamber spoke softly. So Earth is not left alone because it is feared. Varix shook his head slightly. Earth is left alone because any invasion would fail before it begins. The chamber lights dimmed slightly as the hologram rotated one final time, showing Earth floating peacefully in space. Blue oceans. White clouds. No visible defenses. No visible threat. Yet the most secure system in the galaxy. Varix lowered the projection. I asked why no one attacks Earth, he said. Now we understand. The silver-skinned delegate spoke again. What is your recommendation, Commander? Varix did not hesitate. Trade with them. A wave of surprise moved through the hall. Not alliance, he clarified. Not rivalry. Respect. He looked around the chamber slowly. Humanity does not need to prove its strength. It already has. And it does not seek to dominate. He paused. But if we ever force them to, no one needed him to finish that sentence. Far away, inside human space, the vast network returned to quiet observation mode. The web dimmed until it was invisible again. The shadow in deep space settled back into stillness. Human commanders reviewed the encounter calmly. Threat level? One officer asked. Reduced, another answered. Continue monitoring. Across Earth and its colonies, life continued normally. Cities shined. Ships traded. Families slept peacefully under alien skies. They did not know how close the galaxy had come to testing their defenses again. They did not need to know, because that was the true strength of humanity. War was not their first answer. Preparation was. And now the galaxy understood something important. Earth was not untouchable because it threatened destruction. Earth was untouchable because it had removed the possibility of winning. The question had been asked. The lesson had been learned. And from that day forward, whenever a young commander somewhere in the galaxy asked why no one attacked Earth, an older voice would answer quietly, because now we know.